Hello, my Aloha tribe, and welcome to the Aloha Perspective. Happy Tuesday. It is Tuesday. I have this hair that's just kind of doing its own thing this morning. Anyways, happy Tuesday. Oh my gosh, you guys. I stayed up last night to watch the Ladies World Cup. So, go America. And, right? I'm so tired. But, anyways, yeah, I'm sorry. My bangs, I need to get my bangs trimmed, so they're just kind of doing their own thing. So just don't mind them, okay? Don't mind them. My hair is just I think my hair is tired. I had my first pumpkin spice latte of the season, only because older sibling bought me a big ass box like a couple years ago. I mean, I don't know if coffee expires or not, but I'm still drinking those pods, so I'm almost done. But anyways, we are on day 11 of body positivity, and for anyone that might be joining us, this isn't body positivity aimed at any specific size. It is people who struggle with body dysmorphia, loving your body. Doesn't matter what size you are, thick or curvy, or actually thick or thin, or thin or curvy, depending on where you are in the world, because I know thick can take on a whole new meaning. But yeah, so let's do this. I always start with the Soul Truth cards. Right now there's self-awareness card deck, and starting tomorrow I'm going to be going with the Threads of Fate, because I think one of the things we miss when we do body positivity is digging into why we feel this way about our body, and sometimes we're afraid to kind of dive into that area. So, if you're going to do shadow work, I highly suggest having some kind of really good support system, whether it's professional help or just people that you really, really trust in your life. Okay, so let's get rolling. What are the dominant emotions that run my life? So, what are the dominant emotions that run my life? Oh, and what I was saying, sorry, this is going to be one of those shows. But one of the reasons I would like to start with this is because they always seem to kind of dive right into what our topic ends up being. Some way or another, I'm able to connect them, and I think that's important, because it's really kind of opening the gate, right, to walk on through and just kind of say, hey, what do we need to work on today? What do I need to do for myself to get myself into this better place of loving my body at any size, at any weight, so, or any size, height or whatever. So there's whether you're tall or short, so it's body positivity comes in many different disguises, or actually I should say body negativity comes in a lot of different disguises. So what we want to do is shoot towards the positivity, so that we can love our body, so that we can appreciate exactly who we see in the mirror, and to love that person. So what are the dominant emotions that run my life? How do you feel your day? Stress. Oh, okay. How do you feel your day? Stress or joy? Trust or anger? Anxiety or peace? We have only today, right now, the journey. No goal, no destination will bring us the feeling we seek. But when we begin filling every day with that which we value most, we will attract more of it. This is fulfillment. Today's soul action: lean into what you want to feel and adjust your life, your values, and your expectations to match your desires. What do you want to feel? Are you willing to let go of the belief that you have to achieve something to feel it? So I like this. This is really about manifestation, setting intentions or prayers, whichever works best for you. But I like this simply based on the fact that it really is about to cover what we're going to talk about. So I'm going to read this one last time. Think about the questions. How do you fill your day? Is it with stress or with joy? Trust or anger? Anxiety or peace? We have only today, right now, the journey. No goal, no destination will bring us the feeling we seek. But when we begin filling every day with that which we value most, we will attract more of it. This is fulfillment. So when it says no goal or destination will bring us the feeling we seek, I think what they're talking about is, you know, it's okay to set a goal and it's okay to have a destination. But how many times do we get lost in the feeling because maybe it's not happening fast enough for us? Maybe we're not moving as quickly towards this, you know, the fruition of said goal or said destination. And then you start feeling kind of icky. You start forgetting all the stuff that you have around you, right? I mean, older sibling and I were talking about this morning. And we were talking about, you know, how grateful we are to just, you know, for everything around us, you know, the electricity, the water, the heat. Well, we don't need heat right now because it's so damn hot. But, you know, the air conditioning, right? There's places in the world that don't have that, and it's like they go through heat waves and it's like, damn. But, you know, also the roof over our head, the food in our fridge, you know, the fresh water, because a lot of people don't have that either. Running plumbing, because a lot of people don't have that either. So it's these kind of things that we have to remind ourselves to be grateful for that help us move into that, you know, feeling that we can achieve anything, that feeling that, you know, we have a goal and a destination. So if you're one of those where it's like you're not feeling super motivated by your goal or your destination, these are the perfect questions to ask yourself. Is it causing anxiety or peace? Are you moving through the day with trust or anger? Are you moving through the day with stress or joy? So you have stress, anger, and anxiety, right? But you can transmute those into joy, trust, and peace. Joy, trust, and peace. When you trust, you can bring peace into your life, and that can bring you joy. Or when you trust, it brings you a certain feeling of joy, and so you feel at peace. But when we forget to trust, we're allowing the anxiety, the anger, and the stress to enter our lives and just kind of take over, right? It's like a little coup inside of our brain. So all the negative stuff takes over and all the positive stuff gets, you know, just put into a dark room and held there for a while. And, you know, I mean, it's not making light of situations like that. It's being basically a hostage to your brain. It really is. And, you know, you have to decide, are you going to be the hero of your story? Are you going to say, no, I need to learn how to trust? Trust is the biggest thing we're ever going to learn in life. And yeah, there are people out there who have probably broken our trust, but that's one person. Or maybe that's a group of people that you just don't hang around anymore. And I don't mean like a group as a whole, but I mean just a bunch of people that you may have cut out of your life already. You may have said, I'm out because I know boundaries. When you set healthy boundaries, you are able to move into a place of trust. Now, I'm going to admit, as I'm saying this, I'm listening to my words because I'm all like, you know, you really need to take your own advice. It's like I'm pointing at you and three fingers are pointing back at me. So this is about all of us moving through together into a level of trust where we know we've set these boundaries and we know that, you know, the people that we let in, they're probably going to have to go through a certain type of vetting process, right? You may not just jump in feet first. Some people like to do that and then they vet them out, and that's their thing. I'm not that person. I am very closed off to people until I get to know them. Some people though just have that vibe that you connect with right away. And you just talk like you've known each other forever. So, you know, but that doesn't mean that if you don't have that vibe with someone, that they're not, you know, someone that you can get to know. Sometimes there may be a certain type of vibe out there that just makes you nervous, right? And you're just kind of like, ooh, I don't want to say the wrong thing because I really want them to like me. So, and that's not fighting for someone's attention. That's just kind of having that brief insecure moment and saying, okay, let's pull our shit together and just get this, you know, let's just jump in and you know, enjoy this moment. So it really is, sorry guys, it really is a lot about that. So, but trust is so huge. I literally have a sign behind the camera that says trust and let go, or leap and the net will appear, because it's faith, right? And faith to me is really about having trust. So trust and faith to me kind of go hand in hand. That being said, today's what am I trying to say? Day 11 of 30 non-consecutive days of body positivity. And I wanted to start to get into more of the deeper soul stuff. You know, the stuff that's going to make us think about why we hate our bodies. You know, why we are so negative or have this toxic body view of ourselves, or, you know, maybe we're just so intent on living by society's, you know, interpretation of what we should look like that we're just kind of like, you know, it feels almost stifling. It feels almost stifling, and you just kind of sit there and go, how do I get through this? How do I move through this? Maybe you were conditioned to growing up, you have to look this way, you have to look that way, or nobody's going to like you if you look like that, or, it's all kinds of weird stuff. And I don't know, maybe that's just because I live in California, and as much as I love California, I mean, technically I was born in Hawaii, so, but I've always considered myself a California native because I grew up here. I've been here since I was 4 months old. And San Diego's my hometown. So it's something that's kind of ingrained in me. I mean, I moved a county away, but I think there are certain places in this world where there are standards that are set for us, and probably very unrealistic standards. Okay, and we have to decide, are we going to blame society? We can, but is that going to do you any good? No, because we're trying to fit into the box they're trying to put us in. But let's rebel a little bit. Let's be the revolutionary in our own lives and say, hey, you know what? I'm comfortable being the way I am, and I'm gonna own it. And that's really what body positivity is about. It's about owning the body you're in. The body's always going to change. I mean, the outside is not going to stay the same. Whether you get a little freckle, or whether you gain a couple pounds or lose a couple pounds, or, if you're still in that growth spurt phase where you're still growing, the body outside is going to change. What needs to, what will stay the same if we don't work on it is what's in here and what's in here. So what's in our head and what's in our heart. And sometimes we forget to listen to our heart. Sometimes we forget that, we listen so much to our mind and what it's processing every day, whether it's positive or negative. And, a lot of times I believe, in my perspective, as humans, we sometimes latch on to the really negative things, especially if, you've been through trauma, or you've been through something pretty drastic, or maybe you're just going through the blues at the moment, whether it's the blues or the common people blues. And the common people blues to me is you do not have a dinged up mental health, but you're sad about something. You're upset about something. And that can sometimes cause us to latch on to the negative stuff. And that's not good, right? That is like no bueno. So today's exercise, or well, I should say for the next several lessons, and I don't know how long, I pulled some cards from a deck called the Threads of Fate, and it's the Shadow Edition. Now, I don't want to lose anybody with that, because what this is, it's about connecting to your shadow self, which is, for me, I call it my inner floof, right? Which is my inner child. It's connecting with the person inside that, it's not always about discovering ourselves. Sometimes it's really about reclaiming who we know ourselves to be. And depending on your thinking, reclaiming who you know your soul to be. Maybe you're in tune with who you were in your past life, and you think, wow, I was so amazing then. What happened now? That's up to you. Do you want to emulate something similar to that, where you just kind of took control and said, hey, let's do this? Or do you want to fall prey to the mind and its negative thoughts? So this body positivity really is about, as older sibling says, she has a book that she wants me to read called Rewiring Your Brain. And that's basically what body positivity is about. This whole series is about. It's about rewiring our brain to stop being so negative, body negative, and move into body positive. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you're tall or short, or if you're thick or thin, or curvy or thin, depending on where you are. That doesn't matter. Because like I said, I did not like my body when I was thin. I hated my body because I'd been through things. And I really kind of journaled over the last couple of days. I mean, I journaled hard over the last couple of days, and I kind of turned it into an artistic event, because there's all kinds of colors in my journal. Like, this thought is going to be green, this thought's going to be pink, this thought's going to be blue. And blue not for any other reason than just another color. This color is going to be orange or red. But it was just, I was trying to separate my thoughts. And I realized where a lot of my body negativity may come from. And so that was something that I had to dive into and work on, and to really kind of think about and allow myself to move through so that I could heal it. I had to feel it to heal it. And that can be a little difficult. So that's why I said, if you're going to do shadow work, be sure that you have a very strong support system, whether it's a strong support system and seeking professional help, or seeking professional help because maybe you don't want people to know your business. And that's okay. And they have so many options now where you don't even have to leave your house. You can do, I found out from my therapist that I can do a phone call or I can do a video call. But I prefer to be in person simply because I squirrel very I squirrel very easily. It's like, oh, what? And that's not beneficial to me. But I'm also a little old school. I like being person to person. But I know that's not everybody's thing, because we've still stigmatized mental health so badly. It's the stigma slowly getting chipped away, but it's still one of those things where in certain parts of the world, and even this country, where it's like, oh, and then you get looked at like you have like 8 heads, and it's like, no. So, if you want to keep it private, keep it private. If you want to go see someone, you don't have to share. Okay. I share because I share my story to help other people with theirs, to help other people heal theirs. Other people shared their stories and it helped me heal mine. And I have the gift of gab. I mean, I was watching, just as a side note, I was watching a video with my dad the last time I was down there. Or not the last time, but the time before. And we were watching a trip we took out to where he grew up in Hawaii. And it was probably about 45 minutes or an hour to drive out there. And I mean, he's all, well, you videotape this for me. And I was like 16 at the time. And so the entire ride was seen for me through the camera, the viewfinder on the camera. And boy, I did not stop talking. I looked at my dad and I'm like, oh my God, how did you survive my childhood? It's like, I talked a lot. So, but hey, we all have our gifts, right? And I love to write. So this is where a lot of this comes in handy, because I just kind of can riff off the top of my head. But, I also feel like I have a bit of a higher power speaking through me sometimes. And I'm not trying to lose you here. I mean, just saying the things, because I know these are things I need to hear as well. This is not the first time I've done the body positivity 30 days. Last time it was 30 days, like straight through. It was like a whole month. Or the first time. And then the next time it was just like Monday through Friday. And then the next time it was kind of like, well, I'll break it up and see how. But this is probably the first time that I'm really paying attention and I'm really putting a lot of work into it. I'm not just pulling someone's stuff off of the internet and saying, hey, let's do this. I did that for the first 10 days because I thought this is a good place to start. The topics they had were really, really good. They were really good to kind of get us into that mindset of where we want to be, what our plan is. And so now I'm in the Threads of Fate deck, and I really like this because today's lesson is connect to heart. So connect to your heart. So I'm going to read this, okay? And then we'll break it down. You are being asked to connect to the headspace. This is a place of bravery, integration, vulnerability, and compassion. This may mean pushing past any fear you may have and opening up to true connection. This may mean finding forgiveness or empathy. This may mean softening. Most of us have layers of defense mechanisms around our heart that prevent us from being present, from receiving love, from giving love. This card asks you to examine what armor you can let go of and where you can nurture yourself in this space. So you're probably sitting there saying, what does connecting with my heart have to do with, going from body negative to body positive? A lot, depending on who you are. I realized that my weight has been a defense mechanism, and my therapist keeps kind of punching that, she keeps punching holes. She's puncturing my armor with, with facts. She's saying, well, so do you think that because, you see yourself at a certain way that you can't date? And it's like, well, yeah, nobody's going to want, she's like, girl, seriously? I mean, she didn't say it like that, but, I'm kind of paraphrasing here, but she's all like, you've seen people out there your size, dating, married, whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, but that's them. And she's all like, well, what's different from them and you? So she's really kind of, like I said, she's really kind of puncturing my armor with reality. It's about confidence. It's about confidence. When you connect with the person you are meant to connect with, they're not going to care what you look like on the outside, because they're going to be connecting to your soul. I mean, I'm sure that the outside doesn't hurt. And for a lot of people, they may be missing out on something. They may feel it and think, well, what are my friends going to say? And that's their insecurities. That's their insecurities. You just need to just know that you are amazing just the way you are. It doesn't matter if you lose weight or get healthy. We're going to talk about that later. It's about knowing that you are comfortable exactly as you are in this moment. It's really kind of mindful body positivity. It's, we do a lot of negative mindful body negativity, right? It's like we sit there and go, and we're so present in the moment and how we look that we're just super focusing on the wrong things. Whereas mindful body positivity, which just kind of popped out of my head, and I'm sure somebody's already written about it somewhere, but for me, this is new for me. It's about just loving who we are in this moment. It's about connecting to our heart and remembering who we are on the inside. So it says you are being asked to connect to the headspace. This is a place of bravery, integration, vulnerability, and compassion. So the headspace, what are you filling your headspace with? Are you filling it with negative stuff? And that's what you're hearing and processing. So that's what you end up seeing is something negative. Or are you filling it with bravery, integration, vulnerability, and compassion? Are you integrating these beautiful thoughts of bravery, vulnerability, and compassion? A lot of people don't want to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is scary. It's scary for a lot of people. It was scary for me. I still struggle with being vulnerable, because, I think kind of shifting to one side for a moment. People who have had trauma, they had trauma and that made them feel that they're most vulnerable. So going back to a feeling of vulnerability is not always easy. It's sometimes very scary and it almost feels like you're going backwards. But what you're doing is you're going backwards in a way to conquer that feeling and remind yourself that, yeah, someone may have taken advantage of you in a very vulnerable position, or someone may have taken you who was like, yeah, I feel great about myself, and made you feel vulnerable. Maybe over the course of time, maybe in one, swift act of selfishness on their part, or we can go in a lot of directions for this. I hope I'm not triggering anybody. Or, sometimes being vulnerable, we let down our shields, maybe, just in reality, oh, I let this person in and they broke my heart. Well, that's life. And I hate to put it that way, but I've had a lot of breakups in my life. The last one, I'm the one who did the breaking up because I saw us drifting in different directions. And, I had to move in my own direction. And, my dad sometimes brings it up and says, yeah, but where are you now? It's like everything you wanted, it didn't happen. But it's like, what? So many other things happened. I know there are so many things I would have done in my life or that I wouldn't have done because, if I want to be in a relationship by myself, I can just be in a relationship by myself. And it's nothing against that person. I think we were both just, one of us knew what we wanted, the other one did not. And to be fair and honest, I was really kind of their first sober and, real first relationship. And I don't mean that to be mean, but it was kind of a conversation we had previously. And this is years and years and years ago. Okay. So, but it's things like that. You have to allow yourself to be brave enough to be vulnerable and to have compassion and empathy for yourself. When you can find those things, you are able to kind of move through to heal whatever it is, whether you are, a person with a dinged up mental health or not. So again, you are being asked to connect to the headspace. This is a place of bravery, integration, vulnerability, and compassion. Vulnerability is scary, but be brave enough, again, to allow yourself to be vulnerable. Because when you set healthy boundaries, when you have that trust, like we just talked about in the card, well, I don't know what I did with the card, but you know what I'm talking about. But when we have, here it is. When we allow ourselves to have that trust, we're removing the stress, the anxiety, and the anger. And sometimes you have to allow yourself to be brave enough to be vulnerable and have enough compassion for yourself to have that trust. Set your boundaries. When you set your boundaries, trust and vulnerability are much more controllable and much more, something that you are in charge of. All right. So the next part, this may mean pushing past any fear you may have and opening up to the true connection. This mean finding forgiveness or empathy. Excuse me. This may mean finding forgiveness or empathy. This may mean softening. I watched a really good interview last week. It was with, oh gosh, I can't think of her name. I don't remember her first name, but I remember her last name, so we'll call her Mrs. Beniaz. And she was one of the survivors. She's one of the last survivors, actually, of the actual Schindler's List. And they said, well, how do you, they asked her, how do you move forward? Her father lied about her age so she could work there. Otherwise, because I think she was only about 10 or 11 at the time to work in the factory. But, they lied about her age, and, she was actually sent to Auschwitz by accident. And then Oscar Schindler showed up and brought her back to his factory. And so she tells her story now. And, she didn't tell her story for a long time because she didn't think anyone would believe her. But now she just talks about, she said one thing that just seems so, so important. And I know that equating her story to what we're going through is very, very different. Because, what she went through was horrific. Absolutely horrific. But I like the message in there. You have to forgive, but you don't have to forget. And that's how she made it through life. That's how she made it through life. Because at first she was angry. And then, she was kind of taken under the wing of somebody, a nun, and they kind of helped her move through that anger, helped her move through all this pain. And she ended up having this beautiful, well, maybe not beautiful, but, because there's still that trauma in the back of your brain. But she ended up having a lovely life. She moved here, had a family, so on and so forth. They wrote a book about her. And, that really kind of stuck in my head. Because there's a lot of us who go through this trauma. And there's a lot of us who struggle with forgiving. And sometimes that's what we need to do. Because believe it or not, this all does tie into the body positivity and body negativity. It teaches us how to see our bodies, how to see ourselves. Without all of the stipulations, without all of the learned things. Whether it was through trauma or through just, somebody who was well-meaning. Saying, well, you got to do this, that, or the other. And just kind of scaring you into living a life where you always feel like the other shoe's going to drop. I've known a lot of people like that. I'm like that. I'm always waiting for the other shoe to drop. And older sibling and I talked about that the other day too. It's like, you need to figure out how to move past that. So I did the whole forgive and let go thing a long time ago. I haven't forgotten. Because it reminds me what I'm fighting for. But when I used to remember those bad things, it would bring me into a bad place. So now I'm going to try to use it as something that reminds me what I'm fighting for. I'm fighting to unlearn the bad things. I'm fighting to unlearn the negative teachings. I'm fighting to unlearn, the pain that was caused to me. But a lot of times what we have to do is to forgive. And if you feel like you have to forgive yourself, do it. But, if you were a victim of something, that wasn't your fault. That was their fault. And if for whatever reason, if you feel you need to forgive yourself for something, then do it. And ask yourself why. Why do I feel like I need to forgive myself? But be vulnerable enough with yourself to be honest. This is why journals are great, whether you choose to do it on the computer or you choose to handwrite it like I do. I have a nice journal over here, but right now I'm simply using a kid's notebook because I find that I do some of my best writing in there, and I love the way the paper sounds. But I love sounds. Sounds and smells are interesting to me. But yeah, it helps me. And it doesn't feel like I'm trying to, I'm in this nice journal. So, you have all these, oh, well, this can't fit in here because this journal's too nice for these thoughts. No, the reason I go back to the notebook is because, I don't have to fight with the binding. I don't have to do this. I can just go and go and go. But also it's a reminder to me, these journals, when I see these notebooks, of all this shadow work that I've done. And I realized that I don't think we ever really finish the shadow work. I think we do the preliminary stuff, the really, really hard stuff. But I think there's always something that gets in there that we can just rinse out, like a porta potty of sorts. And you have somebody come in and suck all that crap out literally. And then they sanitize it and all that stuff. And that's kind of what we need to do. There's times when we have to just check in with ourselves and suck all that crap out. and give ourselves a good clean, give ourselves a good desanitizing or sanitizing thing, you know. So let's see this, and you know, the whole forgiveness thing can help you soften a little bit. It can help remind you that, hey, you know what, they do not define me. What happened to me does not define me. And that doesn't happen overnight. I mean, depending on how much work you're willing to put in, you know, it took me years because I was too afraid to do the work. I was too afraid to be vulnerable. But when I finally sat down and decided I need to be vulnerable, I need to get help, I need to get all this stuff out, it really kind of set me on a journey, and really a years long journey, because I kept going backwards. You know, I kept thinking, oh, I'm right at this point where I can step into this like ascended mode sort of. And then I was reading a card the other day about ascension. And ascension is just moving to a new level. And I kept thinking, wow, I keep having these things called ascension flu, which is like, you know, feels like the flu, you're going through all this stuff. But then I did what they called a spiritual bypass, which means it's like, oh, wait, I still have something else to heal. And I didn't. I was just finding different ways to unpack the same things I had unpacked. It's like I was unpacking it, packing it, unpacking it, packing it. So it's like, you know, you open up your suitcase and how you normally would open it up, and you unpack it and you're like, oh, that's relieving. Well, I was doing it from this side, from that side, from the other side, upside down, whatever. I was just revisiting all the crap I did not need to revisit because I was scared. I'm not good at being vulnerable, but I'm learning, and I'm learning along with you guys. So that's why I really wanted this next chapter of body positivity and body negativity and all this other stuff to really be something that we can dig into here, into our soul, into our heart, you know, to figure out why our mind is doing all these things, to really allow ourselves to forgive. You don't have to forget, but you know, forgiveness isn't about them. It's about helping you move forward, and it's about helping you see you in the mirror. And when we connect to our heart, we can look at our reflection and say, I am enough, or I am lovable, or I am loved, and or I am worthy of love, or I am worthy of this, that, or the other, all positive things. Put a positive adjective in there. And say to ourselves, you know, and actually believe it, because we're connecting to our heart, because we're connecting to this feeling that we really are worth it. Body positivity to me, or having a body positive, you know, attitude, is having self-love, self-worth, self-respect, self-awareness, practicing self-care to, you know, to maintain all these things. You know, it's like buying a brand new car, and self-care is that maintenance, that oil change, that tire rotation, all that stuff, the topping off of fluids. That's what self-care is. It's reminding yourself that, hey, I need to top off my fluids. You know, your proverbial fluids. I need to just kind of buckle down and say, oh yeah, right. It's time for maintenance. It's time. And, you know, I think that's something that we can do every week. You know, set time aside for yourself, or in the morning when you're meditating. You know, you can meditate while you brush your teeth. Meditation is not always about sitting with your legs crossed, doing this with your eyes closed. It's about focusing on something that you really want to concentrate. It's about mindfulness. It's about mindfulness. I mean, meditation can be that thing where you just sit down and close your eyes and all this other stuff. But you can really kind of meditate while you're brushing your teeth. I mean, we all know how to brush our teeth, right? Especially if I have an electric toothbrush, and my toothbrush tells me when to change spaces or places on my mouth. So sometimes I do end up in a really kind of interesting meditative state. And I feel the negative thoughts coming in, and I try to just replace them and say no. So, in fact, it's gotten so hard that I realize I don't even brush my teeth in front of the mirror right now, because I think I don't know. I think there's a part of me where I'm struggling with the vulnerability. So I need to start making it a point to look at myself in the mirror while doing this. So, the last part of this. Most of us have layers of defense mechanisms around our heart that prevent us from being present, from receiving love, and from giving love. This card asks you to examine what armor you can let go of and where you can nurture yourself in this space. Now, I mentioned earlier that my weight has been my armor, but it's not about letting go of the weight. It's about letting go of the thoughts that make me think I need to hold on to this weight. It's about letting go of, it's about being vulnerable, finding that bravery that we talked about earlier, and integrating that bravery into our minds and into our hearts so that we can be vulnerable and show ourselves some compassion and empathy, to show ourselves, some forgiveness for whatever reason, or somebody else. And just like I said, you're not forgiving them for any other reason than for you. And not everybody's there yet. You know, you may follow people. I follow people that aren't there yet. They're not there because they're still going through a lot of their pain. They're still going through a lot of their hurt and a lot of their anxiety. And, you know, it's not you know what? Healing is like grieving. There is no set time. People do it at their own pace. And sometimes we'll get knocked upside the head, not literally, and remind ourselves that, hey, whoa, you're stuck in a loop. You need to figure out how to get off this hamster wheel and start living your life. My therapist actually told me, no more journaling about your past. She's all, you talk about it with so much ease now that that's a sign of you being healed. But it's also a sign of you being nervous or afraid, possibly, of moving out of that, because it is a comfort zone. It is like that, you know, Linus and his blanket, right? It is, you know, a kid in their whoopee, a kid in their teddy bear, like, oh my God, my bear's gone. I can't go on without it. And it's about those comfort things. And it's about letting that go. It's about feeling like you can move away from that security, even if it's not a good situation. Sometimes it becomes so comfortable that we don't want to leave it, because it's what we know, and we're afraid to be curious about what we don't know. You know, we're afraid to be curious, and because being curious and heading into the unknown is allowing ourselves to be vulnerable. I literally just got that. I told you guys I'm learning this along with you, because I'm listening this time. I'm really trying to pay attention to the words, to the teachings, to everything I'm saying to you. And I just got that. And I just mentioned I struggle with being vulnerable. So the layers of defense that keep you from giving love or keep you from receiving love. And it's not just relationship love. It's just love across the board. You know, friends, family, you know, maybe a partner, maybe a potential new relationship, you know, just siblings, just all different kinds of, you know, love is such a broad spectrum. But sometimes we hold back. You know, sometimes our family members might think we're rigid. Mine just think I'm crazy because I try to be the funny one in my family. I literally just laugh at my own jokes. So, and sometimes it's because the thoughts just don't connect and it ends up being a dumb outcome. But it still makes me laugh. So, okay, if you can't laugh at yourself, who can you laugh at, right? So, but yeah, so a lot of us. And again, you don't have to have a dinged up mental health. You don't have to have some kind of previous trauma to have layers of defense. Maybe you grew up in a mostly healthy household, right? But maybe you had a family member that came to visit all the time and their life just wasn't that great. And, you know, you might think, wow, my life is so great, but so was theirs. And what if that happens to me? You can literally talk yourself into being negative. You can talk yourself into setting up layers of defense that aren't necessary. That's that person. That's their life. They made choices, or maybe choices were made for them that you don't know about. You're just seeing a little bit of them at that moment. We don't know what they've been through. We don't know. So you have to just kind of live your own life. You have to just say, you know what? I hope they find what they're looking for. But I'm grateful that, you know, I'm on this path, whatever happens. We should not define our lives by the relationships we have. Whether it's friendships, family relationships, romantic relationships, we need to define ourselves and our lives by who we are and the path that we're choosing. And it may not be the path that everybody, you know, thinks you should be on. I've been struggling. You know, I literally have been struggling. A lot of people keep trying to put me on this path and to put me in this box that they think I should be in. And I'm just kind of like... I feel like a feather in the wind, like in Forrest Gump, but honestly, that feather had more direction than I did. And that says a lot, because that feather was just free floating, right? But that feather had more direction than I do. But I'm realizing now that I'm just trying to find this footing in my mind. And when I allow myself to be vulnerable and have compassion and empathy for my path, you know, and to maybe believe that I can do something more in this world, I really think my purpose and my path will unfold before me. But when we become a certain age, we start thinking, well, I should be here. Look at all these people that are here. Stop comparing yourself to the world. That is one of the biggest defenses we put up. And we don't even realize it, right? We have this big defense around our heart, but then we reinforce it because we're so busy comparing ourselves to other people, where they're at in life, what relationships they may or may not have, where they might be in their career. There's all those things. There's all those things. What should define you is what makes you happy, what brings you joy. You know, I've been watching this series on a bunch of different things on YouTube about people who live in tiny homes or van life. Van life is so interesting. I just love watching all these people and seeing all these things that they've done. I don't think that would be the life for me, but it just looks so freeing and so amazing. I mean, I don't think I could live that way, but I would love to travel that way because it just looks so interesting. You know, you have somewhere to sleep, you have somewhere to cook your meals, somewhere to just chill out wherever you're at. I love the mountains, but I also love the beach. And this one girl had a beautiful van set up, and the way she had it, it was just like it was just a regular van, like the old 70s looking vans, right? And with the windows and all that stuff, and I could just see me sitting on a beach somewhere just chilling. Or, you know, maybe at a campsite in the mountains, because I would not want to be anywhere alone. If I traveled with someone, maybe. But if I was alone, probably not the safest thing. So, you know, when you're a girl, I know. I try not to put stipulations on girls, but people do like to take advantage of us. So, you know, maybe learn martial arts before I do this. But no, seriously, it looks so freeing and it looks so amazing. And it's inspiring me to think, you know, these people just kind of stepped away from life and did this, and somehow they're managing. So it's just about knowing what you want and then figuring out how to make it happen. And I think that's where my block has been. My block has not been in the place where figuring out what I want, because I've just been waiting for whatever it is I want to happen. But I realize there is a level of responsibility that I have to take in knowing that maybe if I put my purpose out there, maybe if I put out what I want, everything will start falling into place. Because sometimes that's what we need. We need that destination. And it doesn't have to be a final destination. Whoa. Let's back that up. Because the first thing that popped in my head was a horror movie. It does not have to be a permanent destination. Okay? It doesn't have to be a permanent destination. Your final destination really is kind of death. All right? So, you know, we'll throw in the horror movie arc there, but let's remove that. Your destination or your purpose or your path, it doesn't have to be a permanent one, but put something down, write something down. Where do you want it? My therapist told me to ask me, or told me to write down, where do you want to be in 6 months to a year? She's all, we need to start thinking about that. She's all, you're young. I love that. She tells, you know, she's like, you're 50 and you're young. And it's like, whoa, I like that second half. Thanks. Because a lot of people here my age and they're like, whoa, you're about to die. You have 1 foot in the grave. Seriously? I do not. All right. People live so much longer nowadays. I have a goal. I have a goal to see the third centennial of my country, because I literally was born 3 years after the second. Oh, no, 3 years before. 3 years before the bicentennial. So I'd like to see the tricentennial. And I mean, hopefully I'll be of sound mind, because, you know, I was only 3 when the last one happened. Actually, that was the year I had my heart surgery. So, you know, a lot of stuff happened that year. But yeah, I know we all have goals, right? It's good to have goals. Whether I make it there or not, it's good to have goals. But remember, it doesn't have to be a permanent, fixed destination. It can be whatever you choose it to be. Maybe your destination is a moving target, but set a target, even if it moves. Or maybe you zig and it zags and you're like, yeah, you know, thanks, but I'm going to go this way now. And this is something I've decided I want to do instead of this. But write something down. Anything. Maybe, do you want to travel? What do I have to do to make that happen? Do you want to teach? What do I have to do to make that happen? Do you want to be a lawyer? What do I have to do to make that happen? Somebody just graduated from college. I was listening to the news the other day, 96 years old or 94 years old. I mean, that's great. And a lot of people will sit there and say, well, why? Well, why not? That might have been their goal, and they finally got there. They achieved something that they had wanted to do their whole life, and maybe life kept getting in the way. So don't worry if life gets in the way. Don't worry about how many numbers you have on your birthday cake, okay? You know what those numbers mean? Instead of being afraid of the numbers on our birthday cake, count them and say, I'm grateful I've been here this long. You know, I know people who passed away in the last 8 years that never made it to my age, will never make it to my age. And I just look back and I think, wow, instead of worrying about being 50, I should be grateful that I'm here, that I have these candles on my cake to keep celebrating, to keep saying, hey, look at all the stuff I get to see. You know, older sibling, and even my dad and I, the three of us were talking a couple of weeks ago when I was in San Diego for Comic-Con, and we were just kind of talking about all the stuff we've seen, you know, and it's just kind of like, wow. And, you know, all the stuff that's kind of my dad has seen. My dad was, you know, born in the 40s, and it's just like, wow, look at all the stuff you saw. But then there's my mom. My mom never made it to 70. She passed away in her late 60s from cancer. So we're not guaranteed. And that's why I always tell people, it's like my dad's big thing is celebrating all the big numbers. My dad celebrates his birthday like I celebrate my birthday. So I know that's where I get it from. Our birthdays are a holiday, or should be. But we celebrate it because we know. You know, and for me, I think a big part of it was because I did have heart surgery. So my parents always made a big deal about my birthday. But, you know, we talk about how much we hate our bodies. We talk about all the stuff that we don't like about our bodies. But your body is getting you from point A to point B every single day. So instead of hating it, maybe we have to learn how to appreciate it. And that's where body positivity comes in. That's where connecting to your heart comes in. Connecting to your heart, letting down those defenses, that armor, getting rid of that armor. The best armor you can have for yourself to protect yourself and to allow yourself to be vulnerable and have trust are boundaries. We have to be brave enough to tell people, hey, and you don't have to be mean about it. Okay. I know some people are like, hey, you know what? You're crossing my boundary. Some people do get that way. Don't be mad at them. Some people, there are introverts in this world that really like their space. And when people step into their space, it makes them nervous. And I know that for me, when I drive, when people get into a little too close to my space, it makes me nervous. And then I kind of just belt out a few expletives because I am nervous. Not because I'm angry, but because I'm nervous. And it's just like, whoa. And it's just kind of a natural reaction. And for some people, you know, just walking into their space could be like, it might make them uncomfortable. So just be wary of that, or be aware, I should say. Be aware of that and just kind of mind your space. But boundaries are the things that we create to keep ourselves safe. There are unhealthy boundaries, the kind where it's just like, oh, well, you know, you just set so many boundaries that nobody can get in. That's not helpful. That's not getting you anywhere. All that's doing is keeping you isolated from the world. But having healthy boundaries is about saying, you know what, this is what I will put up with and this is what I won't. And sometimes people find themselves moving away from people they may have known for years because these people just live in such a negative place that they, you know, they just want to take everybody down with them. And they find that when they kind of gently remove this person, or maybe they just pull back a little, not necessarily remove the person completely, but pull back a little, they might realize, oh, hey, you know what? And sometimes that person that they're pulling back from, because sometimes it means it's like, you know what, I just can't have your negative energy around me because it brings me down. It's like, I'm struggling enough, you know, but it's like, you just like to live there in this place. And I think you have to really be close to somebody to get that honest. And you don't always have to be. Being honest with someone and telling them what you see, it's not your job to fix other people. The only person you can fix is yourself. So when we set these healthy boundaries, when we have these healthy areas around us, it allows us to be vulnerable. It allows us to show compassion and empathy for ourselves. And it can open the doorway to trusting that we know what we're doing, what is best for us. And that is exactly what it's about. Doing what is best for us. Body positivity isn't about what size you are. It's about, like I said, looking at your reflection. Any reflection you pass, whether it's outside of your house or in front of one of your mirrors, or even walking up to your house and you see yourself in the window or the door, you know, you see your reflection. It's about seeing that person and going, wow, you were amazing. Being floored by who you are. You know, sometimes when you wear that awesome outfit and you walk out and you hear everybody go, wow, and you would just have that expression in the mirror, it's the expression in the mirror that should matter the most to you. Everything else is a bonus. Because you got to love who you see. When we start seeking validation from other people, we start losing who we are. And a lot of times that is exactly where body negativity comes from, is seeking validation from an outside source and not ourselves. So that's where we have to work on it. Seeking validation and knowing our self-worth, having self-respect, having self-love, having self-awareness to know when you need self-care, to maintain that mental aspect, and to, get your heart and your mind, on the same page. Okay, so I hope everybody has a wonderful, wonderful day. Don't forget to connect to your heart. Tomorrow will be Self-Care Wednesday. It's going to be the same deck, but it's going to be all about self-care. In fact, there's even going to be an exercise in this. So if you have time, get ready for that, or I will try to figure out where I am. In fact, I'll make a note for myself where I am on this so that if you want to go back, that you can just go right to the time of where the video I think might be at. So I hope everybody has a great, great day. Take care of yourselves, connect with your heart, find a way to journal or be open and very honest with yourself about learning how to be vulnerable. Remember, your path needs a destination. It does not have to be a permanent one. It can be a moving target. But as long as you have something that motivates you to manifest or set in the intention or pray for getting to this point. Okay? So I'll be back here tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific time, Facebook Live. All lives are public under Shelly Marie Lucas. You can watch even if we're not Facebook friends, or you can catch the replay on my Facebook page, The Aloha Perspective, my YouTube page, The Aloha Perspective with Shelly Marie, where you can click and subscribe and even like the video, please. And also, if you don't have time to listen to me go on and on and on in the long version, I also, right after this show, the live show, I record a message that's 10 minutes or less on TikTok. So it's like the express version of, it's the convenience store version of body positivity. All right. So have a great day, everybody. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.